So why did we get a ceasefire? Well, I don't know. I'm only going to give you the best reasoning I can as of today. But of course, like the other time, to explain why I think we have a ceasefire, we have to go back and check off a few boxes. And the first box is, we have no idea. Well, yes, the public has no idea how well Israel is able to go into Iran's airspace and conduct its strikes, what aircraft it used, what weapons it used, nothing. Now, I know you've read in the paper that Israel has like free reign over Iranian skies, but have you seen any images or photos of Israeli aircraft over Iran? No, none whatsoever. Do you ever see Israel saying, well, we hit the building with this type of bomb or that type of bomb? No. Now, obviously, Iran probably knows, but they're not going to come out with it either. In a war, both sides will be completely operational security. They don't let out anything about how the operations are going. They'll work with the politicians to give some sort of like broad idea, but they want to spin it their way. But I want to make this very clear. We don't know anything. And then you're probably reading the papers right now, you know, in the news it's all about, well, did we really destroy their nuclear program? Wasn't that the goal, or is it regime change? So the media basically just has this endless loop of conversation about the whether Israel or the United States was able to stop Iran's nuclear enrichment program, or its program to create a bomb that it says it's not doing. And so anyway, just that spins around the news cycle, even though, as I said in other videos, it really has almost nothing to do with what's going on. But, you know, again, like I said, and I want to make another point. Not only do countries not let out any sort of information about what's going on in a military sense, but the public doesn't want to know. Now, believe it or not, I believe the government will tell the public as much information as the public really wants to know. So, for the sake of argument, if the US public basically said, I'm not going to elect you unless you tell me the truth, that person would tell you the truth, or would tell you a lot closer to what's going on than we're getting today. But there's no, and there seldom ever is, interest from the public in what's going on with the military or geopolitical issues at all. You know, whether you're in World War II or you're in peaceful times, you know, people, they have other things to do. So I just want to check that box off, that when I tell you why I think the ceasefire happened, it has nothing to do, you know, it's just my pure, I can only speculate, and others can only speculate. But I just want to drive this point home. In our heads, we all want to believe in authority. We want to, right? We all want to believe in our government, whatever, in the leader, whoever they are, whether we like them or not. We still want to believe in a sense that they're, that they're not lying. Let's just put it that way. And so, yeah, I mean, how am I going to get anywhere, like proving something that we don't have the facts for, and which again, you might be like, well, you have a political point of view. So anyway, I just want to get all that out of the way, that if you're new to this, remember, when you're reading the paper, we don't know anything. Unless you have a specific fact, right, and proof of that fact, somebody shows you evidence of that fact, then, you know, believe it. Now, for instance, we have satellite evidence that the bombing run of the United States did not work, but remember, politically, they want to talk about that because they don't want to talk about this other stuff I'm about to talk about, right? So they want to talk about the nuclear, the Iran's nuclear bomb program that doesn't exist, that does exist, that has to be eliminated, right? They do want to talk about, so they'll put out the evidence. But what other satellite evidence do you see for anything else going on in any of these wars, right? So you don't, because these countries squash it, right? Maxar Technologies doesn't just release maps and satellite images, whatever they feel like, right? There are rules that have to be followed. They will not release everything. If the U.S. government says, no, you can't release this, they will not release it. And they're not going to put out a press release saying, hey, we're not releasing this, okay? So, no, they're not at all. So, okay. So anyway, but you have to have the interest. So Iran's been calling their missile attacks True Promise 1, 2, 3, 4. And True Promise 2, my assessment was that they said to the Israelis, we're going to hit some sheds out in the Nevatim Air Base and some other places to prove to you we can hit anything we want whenever we want. That's the precision capability of our missiles. So that's what they did. And I wrote a story about it on Medium at the time in October. Nobody paid any attention to it. Not that anybody should pay attention to me, who knows nothing and has no access to any sort of military inside information. But at any rate, that was my assessment back then. So when Israel bombed Iran, it didn't really know. You never know. Even though, let's just say that Iran hit these sheds at the Nevatim base, it doesn't mean that when they really fire on Tel Aviv that they're really a lot of missiles are going to get through. Right? You just don't know until you try. But it doesn't make a difference. So Israel's like, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to attack the attack Iran, take out their some of the nuclear scientists and leaders, and we're going to try and go for regime change. That's what they're going for, in my opinion. So again, it never had much to do with the nuclear program, though again that's part of it. So but because it's an excuse, right? Like everybody can understand, whether you're Iranian, Israeli, American, European, whatever, nobody wants nuclear bombs, right? So if you say, oh, I'm going to get rid of nuclear bombs in the world, well, that's a good thing. I mean, never mind that Israel has them and isn't a signatory to the NPT, or doesn't even say how many bombs they have. Never mind about any of that, right? So, okay. Anyway, so Israel goes into attack, and Iran starts firing their missiles. And you'll notice again, no news comes out of Israel how many defensive missiles they're firing at these Iranian missiles, like, how many, what kind, how many, whatever. Iran is not saying how many missiles they're firing, how many getting shot. Nobody's giving any numbers, any facts whatsoever. All we can know for sure is when we look at a video, we can see whether a missile hit someplace, and we can see video after it if Israel allows people into those sites to see it, or same thing with Iran, right? We only see what the governments allow us to see. And so we're depending, well, they don't allow us to see anything except if it's politically useful for them. So we only see what gets onto social media, whatever. So we do know from that Iran was hitting military targets with great precision and great destructive force. Now, most missiles generally, historically, from my understanding, aren't really, they're more like a terror weapon. Like during World War II with the V2s and the V1s, the bombs aren't really that big. But, they're scary because you never know when they're going to hit. And so it's a psychological warfare. But Iran has developed the hypersonic, the ability that after the ballistic missile fires, now it's going hypersonic into space, but after it comes down space, it starts to slow down. And then at some point, as it slows down, it can be more easily taken out, let's just say, by defense missiles. But then it fires a hypersonic projectile at the last moment, whatever, that goes up to speed 14, and the force of that is so strong, just the force of it, the kinetic force, the speed of the missile, creates a huge explosion. Even if it didn't even have any explosive stuff in it, like TNT or whatever, it would still be a huge explosion. So anyway, this technology of missiles is hitting Israel in that way, and Israel knows, I believe, I mean, we all know. So let's just say that Iran is hitting, 2 or 3 sites a day. Let's say 3 sites a day, okay? And let's just say they're even firing 10 missiles a day, right? And by the way, generally in missile defenses, it's you need to fire anywhere from 2 to 4 defensive missiles to shoot one down. The probabilities just aren't there. So whatever Iran is firing, Israel needs to fire 4 times as much, essentially. So the numbers are sort of in Iran's favor, but of course Israel has the whole United States and the whole West manufacturing capability on its side. So anyway, so Iran's firing these missiles. So if Israel, now remember, most wars are fought on 2 levels, on the elites and like the poor people, right? So when the elites of Israel, when their cities are getting hit 3 times a day by these missiles and they can't stop them, and again, I don't think Israel can stop them. they can try to stop them. They stop some. But stopping some, even stopping 80%, is not the same as stopping all of them. And if you're in Tel Aviv or Haifa and you're walking around, again, even if you know that 80% will get shot down, you still, do you feel lucky, right? Because one is going to hit that day. So Israel can't go on like that for 600 days. So they want they agree to a ceasefire. And we have to remember that Israel, if you look at it, they apply force. They've been applying force all the time against anybody that gets in their way of expanding or maintaining their Jewish Zionist state. And I'm not making a judgment here, okay? That's just the way it is, okay? So they use violence to do that. They didn't say to the Palestinians, oh, you can all be citizens, or we're going to no, none of that. It's just violence, for whether it's good or it's bad. So if they could continue to use violence against Iran, they would have, because that's, again, their status quo. So the only reason they would do a ceasefire is if Iran basically has one over on them. Has missiles that can hit the elite, and the elite can do nothing to protect it. So that's my view on the ceasefire.